let's talk about something that I'm willing to bet is affecting you right now. It feels like laziness, or maybe a lack of discipline. But what if I told you it's actually a neurological trap? It's time we understood exactly how this thing works.
Right out of the gate, we're starting with the bombshell. A neurologist from Stanford put this on the record. And no, that's not some exaggeration to get clicks. It's a cold, hard, clinical observation. And as you're about to see, the science, well, it backs it up completely.
So does this hit close to home? You had the best intentions, right? You invested your money, your time, and yourself, but for some reason, you just couldn't follow through. You are definitely not alone in this. Or maybe this is what your screen looks like at this very moment. It's like a digital explosion, so fragmented you can't even remember why you opened half these things. This isn't just disorganization, it's a classic symptom.
And then, of course, there's this one. Come on, we've all been there. It starts with a simple 2-second task, and before you know it, you've been sucked into a vortex of random content, and a huge chunk of your day is just gone. So what is actually going on inside our heads?
Okay, so let's just reframe this entire problem right now. This is not about a character flaw. It's not about you being lazy or lacking willpower. We're going to look at this for what the actual data says it is: a documented neurological injury.
You know, back in 2024, Oxford actually made this slang term their official word of the year. But look closely at that definition. See that one word, supposed? That implies it's just a theory, an idea. Well, what was supposed back then is now clinically documented today.
And that brings us to the hard science. We're about to dive into a groundbreaking study that was published in the super reputable journal Neuroimage. This is where they put this whole phenomenon under a microscope.
And let's be clear, the credibility here is rock solid. This is not some online poll or a fluff piece. It's a serious academic experiment from a real Department of Cognitive Neuroscience. They specifically found 120 healthy students, no history of mental illness, no brain injuries, to get a completely clean baseline. So they split these students into 2 groups, and the only difference was one single behavior: how much short-form video they watched every day. And just look at the gap here. Group A, the control group, watched an average of just 18 minutes. Group B, the heavy users, averaged 217 minutes. That's over 3.5 hours every single day.
And here it is, the first terrifying result for the heavy user group: a nearly 12% reduction in gray matter volume in a critical part of the brain. Let me be clear, that's not a metaphor. That is physical shrinkage. But what does that part of the brain even do?
Easy way to think about it. The prefrontal cortex is the CEO of your brain. It's the boss. It handles all the high-level stuff, planning, juggling different pieces of information, and this is the big one. It's the voice that tells you no when you feel a sudden impulse. The study basically showed that the heavy user group had a smaller, much less effective CEO running the show.
The second finding was, if anything, even more alarming, a massive 23% drop in the number of D2 dopamine receptors. Think of these receptors as little docking stations for pleasure and motivation. When you have fewer of them, your brain's physical ability to feel rewarded by normal, everyday life is just lower.
And here's the part that should really get your attention. The brain scans of these students who were just watching a lot of short-form videos, they showed the exact same pattern of damage that neurologists see in people with severe gambling and cocaine addictions. Essentially, your brain goes numb, and you start needing bigger, faster, more intense hits of stimulation just to feel okay.
Okay, so we've looked at the brain scans, the hard science, but now let's bring it back to you. How does all this neurological damage actually show up in your day-to-day life?
So, as I go through this next list, and this comes directly from the study's behavioral you I want you to be really honest with yourself. How many of these feel familiar?
All right, let's run through them. Number 1, temporal discounting. That's when you watch everything on 2x speed and it still feels slow. 2, attention residue. You're constantly switching tasks without finishing anything. 3, phantom anxiety. You feel restless, almost itchy if you're not looking at a screen.
4. Reading regression. You read a whole paragraph and nothing sinks in. And 5. Cognitive fatigue. You just feel mentally exhausted all the time. If you nodded along to 3 or more of those, you're not lazy. You're showing the documented symptoms.
Now, you've probably heard that old line about how humans have an attention span shorter than a goldfish, like 8 seconds or something. Well, that data is ancient history. Let's look at the real modern measurement. So, new research from Dr. Gloria Mark at UC Irvine, and she studied this stuff for decades, shows our average attention span on a single task is now 47 seconds. And at first you might look at that and think, hey, that's way better than 8 seconds, we're improving. But there's a huge catch.
At 47 seconds, that's our absolute peak performance. That's how long we can last when we are in work mode, actively, intentionally trying to concentrate on one thing. It's not our casual attention span while we're scrolling. It's our max, and it's still less than 1 minute.
Okay, I know that after all that data, it might feel a little bleak, but I need you to listen closely, because this next part is the most important thing you're going to hear. This is not a life sentence.
Here's the good news. Your brain is unbelievably adaptable. It hasn't been permanently damaged. It is simply adapted to the crazy high-stimulus digital world we all live in now. And that is the key. Because it's an adaptation, it means your brain can adapt back. You can literally retrain it for deep, sustained focus.
So look, this isn't permanent. The very same brain mechanics that got you into this state of distraction can be used to get you out. It's a path back. And if you're feeling like you're stuck in this trap, the real question isn't if you can get your focus back. The real question is, what if you could start that process today and feel a real difference in just 1 week?